right, welcome to Season 3, Episode 16, also known as Episode 88 of the Retro Game Club podcast. I'm Hugh, and joining me is the new owner of Yahoo and AOL, Rob.
Yeah, I got a pretty good deal. Not bad, not bad. I bought it with Dogecoin, actually.
Okay, good.
Not sure I know what that is, but...
Still only cost you like $7.
Yeah, shockingly, sometimes I actually go to Yahoo for if I want online news for whatever reason, simply because they have no comments anymore. So you could get news without garbage comments. But
yeah. I mean, I kind of miss Yahoo Answers because that's where I would get all my medical advice.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, now you could get your medical advice from typing of the dead. Because Yahoo
I can do that.
There.
Yeah.
But I actually had to tech support an AOL email address the other week.
Well, that's the thing. People who were online early have Yahoo and AOL addresses because it's really a pain changing your primary email address.
Yep, and both work fine. Both their interfaces are actually, I mean, almost, if not as good as Gmail. It's just Gmail they're just kind of frowned upon for some reason, I guess. Makes you look like a boomer.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you are. If you were like an early internet user in 1995, you're either a very young, you're a kind of young Gen Xer or 30 to 40-year-old boomer, right? Just doing the math.
Yep. Yeah, I still have my Yahoo account. I never use it. But
I got rid of mine a long time ago.
I think I check it once a year or something. I'll get a notification that they're about to delete it, so I'll just check it. But what have you been up to?
What have I been up to? So this is it's retro, but it's not gaming related. So I was out taking a walk with my youngest kid, and ice cream trucks are starting to come back. So we actually did have ice cream trucks last year. I don't know if it was technically legal to be an ice cream truck in Illinois last year, but people were still doing it.
Uh-huh.
And I was telling her about an ice cream I had as a kid called Fat Frog. Did you have that?
That sounds familiar.
Right. So I described it as it's like a ice cream stick where it's a frog that has a bubblegum nose.
Yep, I remember that.
And I asked my wife, do you remember Fat Frog? And she said, yeah, it's the frog with the bubblegum nose. And then I went and looked at the commercial online. It has chocolate candy eyes, no bubblegum nose.
Interesting. I remember a bubblegum nose too.
Yeah. So this is like a Mandela effect thing.
I think the new one is Sonic. I think they replaced it with Sonic.
I think it's SpongeBob. Although Sonic would make sense too.
Yeah. They both
I remember seeing
hilarious.
Yeah. I definitely remember seeing SpongeBob last time Ice Cream Truck came by.
Whatever happened to Push Pops? I was at Meijer or Target the other day, and I was like, it's spring. I should get some Push Pops. And I couldn't find them. Do they still make those?
Yeah, I bought them at Jewel last year for sure. If not, well, definitely not this year yet, but I bought Push Pops. They still make those. Gaming-wise, I was thinking I installed Shakedown Hawaii on my PS4. I have the physical copy, and I just installed it. Did not start it. I don't know why. But I might start that tonight. That's the sequel to Retro City Rampage. Did you play that?
Yeah. No, I've seen videos, though. I think I actually own it, to tell you the truth.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's on everything.
Yeah.
It's like a solo development project. Took the guy maybe 5 to 10 years. And yeah, this is the sequel. I think it's probably 2 years old now. It's technically the last game ever released on the Wii U. So, kind of a neat game. And then I went and got one of those trendy COVID vaccines. Finally.
Oh,
so I just want to throw that in there. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, they're pretty much everywhere in Illinois now. We were pretty slow in terms of rolling out, I feel, compared to, I don't know, just from people I talked to in other parts of the country, it seems like we were a little bit behind.
Mm-hmm.
It feels, it's pretty good. I, haven't turned into a lizard person or bought an Xbox or anything like that. So,
yeah, I think we're brothers now. I think Bill Gates is our father. Is that how it works?
Is that how it works? Yeah, maybe. Yeah. No, it's fine. I mean, it was a complete non-event, and hopefully it is for everybody else. And I'm just working to get, hoping both my kids can be done before the end of summer.
I always wondered with this shot, why people talk about ever having a sore arm. Because anytime I've ever gotten a shot, I've gotten a sore arm.
Right.
So I don't know how that's a side effect.
It's not. I was, the worst was I was a little bit, had sort of like I'm going to get a cold feeling.
Yeah, that's just your body working.
Right. I mean, that was for like 6 hours and then I was fine. I once got 9 vaccines in one day. So this was not, in terms of sore arm, this was not that bad.
Yeah, I'm with you too.
That was, I have to go to India in a month. And you go to one of those clinics, the like travel clinics where you basically like, here's the country I'm going to, what do I need? And they're like, when's the last time you had any vaccine shots? I'm like, I don't know, man. High school? Like, I didn't realize, I guess I wasn't smart. I didn't realize you need to get boosters on a lot of things.
I had no idea either. I went to the jungles of Ecuador after high school and for a summer. And I went to go get some vaccines and stuff. And, they pulled up my records and they're like, you legally were not supposed to be able to graduate. And then they lined up a bunch of needles.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
I had, 9 in a row that day, man. It was great. Because while I was there, I only needed 8 to go to India. But then they're like, did you have a flu shot this year? I'm like, no, I did not. I'm like, well, we'll just throw that in.
Yeah, it's 2-for-1 deal or something.
And that night, I did not feel good that night. I had kind of like cold sweats going all night after that. But I did okay. And yeah, this COVID one, I went and got the Pfizer thing and the card and all that stuff. And it was a total non-event. So,
yeah.
Sooner we all do this, the sooner this whole thing is over.
Yeah.
All right. So what have you been up to?
Oh, man. Let me think. I spent a day outside this weekend, just doing some yard work, cleaning the car and stuff, and forgot that the sun was out, even though it was like 50 degrees. And I already got my first burn of the year. So that did not take long. What else? Still playing Phoenix Immortal Rising on the PlayStation 5. That game got really mixed reviews, but I'm really enjoying it. It has really campy humor. It really feels like, a Breath of the Wild like mixed with some like God of War type mechanics. Yeah, I would definitely give this one a recommend. And I think it's one of the few games that is not priced at $70. So it has that going for it too.
But does it like charge you for a bunch of extra stuff?
No. I think there's some DLC that you could get, like post-game stuff. But I'll tell you the truth, the game is so good that I might even get that stuff. Can't think of anything else I've been up to. I think that's about it.
Right.
We have a pretty special episode today.
Yeah, we sure do. We got a guest we've been trying to get on, or almost got on once, and due to technical problems, lost that recording. But she was kind enough to come back.
Yeah. So let's dive in.
All right. Was Goldeneye originally intended for the Super Nintendo? This is on Snopes, who we've probably never referenced before.
No. But the short answer is yes.
Yeah.
I did not know that. Apparently, it was supposed to be they were going to use the same kind of technology, the pre-rendered silicone graphics, like they did in Donkey Kong Country. So I actually had no idea about this.
Yeah, it seems plausible. I mean, when I saw the headline, I didn't really have to read. I mean, I did read the article, but it sort of occurred to me like, yeah, probably started development on the Super Nintendo and then just based on timeline, shifted development to a different system.
But also, if you think about it, GoldenEye the movie came out in like mid-95 and GoldenEye the game came out like in mid-97. I mean, that's a long time. You usually try to line that up a bit better. Mm-hmm. I think there was even another Bond movie between those two events, So, yeah, kind of makes sense. Some random Mortal Kombat, I wouldn't call it news, I guess, items. A timeline of Mortal Kombat ripoffs from the 90s.
Yeah, I feel like they're missing at least one game. Shadow for sure. But this is about some Mortal Kombat ripoff games that you probably all know and maybe don't love.
I actually don't know most of these. I know, what's it? Bloodstorm. I know Primal Rage.
Yeah. Yeah, so Bloodstorm was basically the same team that did Street Fighter the movie. I think they got hired to do Street Fighter the movie because they had done a semi-digitized, Mortal Kombat style game. Mm-hmm. And Time Killers was also theirs. A lot of these are like Jaguar and 3DO games. So if you didn't own either of those systems, obviously you didn't play them.
Yeah, a lot of these are new to me. Survival Arts, do not know that one. Tattoo Assassins.
Yeah, that's unreleased.
Okay,
yeah.
There you go. Yeah.
It has like 5,000 fatalities or something completely absurd.
So you just mash some buttons and something will happen?
Yes. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, basically, yeah. Stuff like I own Kasumi Ninja for the Jaguar, but I don't have a second controller, so I never play it.
You need 2 controllers for that?
Well, if you're going to play against someone else,
yeah, true. Yeah.
When I play against my kids, we'd probably be evenly matched. I don't really know how to play the game.
Mm-hmm. Ultra Vortec?
Yeah, it's another bad Jaguar game.
Wow, yeah. Yeah, I don't know anything about the Jaguar.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple really good Jaguar games. I think I've mentioned this before. There's a couple really, really good Jaguar games at most of the library. I mean, like the good game to garbage ratio is very, very bad.
Yeah.
There's like it's sort of there's no middle class on the Jaguar.
Yeah.
There's 2% that control all the wealth on the Jaguar, and the other 98% live in total poverty. That's how you would describe the Jaguar in economic terms.
So you have Alien versus Predator and Tempest, and then
nothing.
Some
people might put Rayman maybe in that 2%.
Yeah, but that was on a lot of systems, though.
Yeah, it was not an exclusive, right? If you take away, because obviously like NBA Jam on Jaguar, it's as good as NBA Jam on any other system. Mm-hmm. If you limit this discussion just to Atari Jaguar exclusives, I know Tempest 2000 is not really an Atari Jaguar exclusive at this point.
But it felt like one back then.
It did, because the other version was Saturn. And I don't think the Saturn version was out at the same time. I have to double check the timeline.
Yeah, that sounds right. But speaking of Mortal Kombat again, do you think it killed Primal Rage?
I do not think that.
Because CBR.com does.
Mm-hmm. Have they played Primal Rage?
I don't know. I don't know about a lot of these articles.
Yeah. I did not like Primal Rage. I don't think it's a good fighting game. I think it's a game that appeals to like junior high kids who like toilet humor.
Yeah, it's kind of a good idea. Primal Rage 2 is actually a good game.
That is a fun game. I like Primal Rage 2.
So back in the 90s and early 2000s, my dad worked at a vending company that sometimes dealt with arcade games and a lot of jukeboxes and stuff, CDs. And he was like, hey, I could get us, one of our arcade games and keep it in our garage for a little bit. I'm like, yes, that sounds great. But it ended up being Primal Rage. So I felt like such a spoiled brat because I only played it like 3 times. And anytime my friends saw it, they're like, oh, cool, an arcade game. I'm like, let's not. I felt like such a brat. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I agree with you. It just was not a good game, and Mortal Kombat was.
Yes. Yeah, if Primal Rage was released independently and Mortal Kombat never existed, I don't think it would have been any bigger of a game.
Yeah. I agree. Good idea, though.
Someone makes a video of what if Legend of Zelda was a turn-based RPG. There you go.
What do you think about this?
It's all right.
Yeah.
I don't know. I watched it. It's only like 5 minutes. It's not a real big time commitment. It's a very hard turn-based RPG. They turned it into.
Yeah, and you know me, I don't like the turn-based, so definitely a downgrade in my book.
Yeah.
I would just be avoiding everything. exploring the world of Nintendo 3DS Homebrew. And I'm going to put my own subtitle to this. How to Pirate 3DS Games. This is on Hackaday. And it's just really a link to a tutorial on how to hack your 3DS and how it's pretty easy. They also link you to a lot of there are some really good homebrew 3DS games, but who are we kidding? If you're going through that much effort, you're gonna be downloading some games you shouldn't be.
Yeah, I mean, I own multiple 3DSs, and it is kind of intriguing for me to hack one so I can play like Doom on it. Because I think Doom on 3DS sounds like a pretty cool idea. I don't know. I have so many copies of Doom though. But you're right. I would end up just using it to pirate games, and I don't know. I already have all the 3DS games that I want to play.
Yeah. I mean, I've said it on this podcast many times. I think 3DS is one of my all-time favorite systems. It just has a great library, and the games are not expensive. You could get so many of the greats on eBay for such a good price right now. Yeah. But I do advocate hacking your DS because it's so easy. DS, not 3DS.
Yes. Nintendo Game Boy becomes Game Man thanks to console mod. So this is a person makes large Game Boy.
Yeah, that's about it. I wasn't very impressed with this one because I don't know what problem he was trying to fix with this, I guess.
He wants a larger Game Boy. That's his problem.
I guess. Now, is this original parts at all, or is this just a Raspberry Pi?
It looks like a Raspberry Pi because he's playing NES games on it.
Oh, yeah, that's right. And he does plug it into an HDMI out. So, yeah, good point.
So, man makes large Game Boy.
What's this? OpenSource.com. Play retro video games on Linux with this open source project. And this is just a little...
It's a thing that says that ScumVM exists. That's this article. Here's ScumVM.
Use it on Linux. Yeah. Yeah, and it gives you reasons why to use it instead of Wine or DOSBox, which I guess are fair. But
well, you can play a lot of other stuff on it too. ScumVM supports a lot of game engines. It's not just the LucasArts games.
And it fixes timing issues also, so it adds better compatibility over Wine or DOSBox. Well, I think DOSBox would be pretty good because you could switch your megahertz within DOSBox. So I don't know if I don't know if he actually thought that all the way through, but still, it's good people are talking about this stuff.
Yeah, it's also super friendly. You don't spend a lot of time messing around with configuration and whatnot on it.
Yeah, it just works. Another list from Kotaku ranking all the Doom games from worst to best. And I have not played the new ones, so...
Well, right. Related to our guest we're going to have on soon, they do not include home ports of Doom in here. Right? Otherwise... Well, what I mean is, like, they don't have, like, Doom for Sega Saturn on this list.
Oh, yeah. It's pretty much all computer and Nintendo 64.
Yes.
Which the image they use for Nintendo 64 has to be edited because I can see things in it. It's just not a black box.
Yeah, it might be the new version.
I have that version. They don't fix it at all.
I thought the brightness was supposed to be better on the new version.
I mean, maybe by like 1 lumen.
I don't know what that is.
It's not noticeable. But yeah, so I'll just list them off from worst to best. Let me go back here. We got Doom Resurrection, Doom VFR, Doom RPG 1 and 2. I don't even know what that is. Final Doom, Doom 3 from 2004, Doom 64 from 97, Doom Eternal, the original Doom from 93, Doom 2 from 94, and then number 1 is Doom from 2016. So, all right. I have no opinion of that article.
None. No. It's all right. I would like to see a ranking of the different home versions of Doom. That would be fun.
Yeah, I would like that one, especially pitting, just like Doom on, I don't know, Apple IIgs against Doom on any other home port. You know what I mean? Yeah, just rate those. Yeah, I would really like that article.
Versus Doom on your smart toaster.
Yeah.
Why do we buy and collect retro video games?
I don't know.
Indeed? I did not watch this video.
No. Yeah, I won't get into it, but I'll just say it's worth a watch. He dives into the psyche of collecting, really, and why would you purchase a cartridge when, you could buy so many collections online for free? So, yeah, it's a fine, quick watch with lots of comments, which I will not read.
That is always a good idea.
Yeah, and this video is on YouTube and linked on Nintendo Life. I think it's a Nintendo Life video. So they posted it themselves. And apparently the Konami code is 35 years old.
Okay.
And
cool.
Konami released an album of lo-fi Gradius tracks to celebrate.
Okay. So chip tunes on an album?
I guess. I don't. Konami, I think the past few years has been doing a fine job, but this is a strange one. I don't think I need this. I could just play Gradius.
Yeah, but some people like to collect vinyl, so I'm not really gonna.
Yeah.
Is this on vinyl? I made the leap to it being on vinyl.
Let's see.
It looks like it is an iTunes album.
Okay, there you go.
iTunes, Apple Music, and Spotify.
Oh, so maybe you could listen to it for free.
There you go.
And did I just close the wrong window? This is also on NintendoLife.com. Some dude threw out $4,000 worth of NES boxes to save some space. So I guess sucks to be that guy.
I don't know, man. I've thrown out all kinds of stuff.
Yeah. I mean, I just mentioned an Apple IIgs, and recently I threw out the monitor or the box for the monitor. I guess it's worth money, but I would have just felt weird selling just an empty box. I don't know. Maybe I should have put it online, but.
Well, I mean, I'm thinking of like all the like store signs and stuff I've thrown out over the years. Like you have these big banners or posters for, coming soon Donkey Kong Country or coming soon Atari Jaguar. We never had a sign for Atari Jaguar. Like that kind of stuff. Or the big cardboard standees. We had like this 7-foot tall Mortal Kombat standee that probably someone would want. That stuff always went straight in the dumpster.
Yeah. Because what are you going to hold on to it for 35 years until it's worth money? Just have that stuff. I can understand if you had a mansion or something, but...
you don't have a mansion if you're working at the video game store at the mall.
Exactly.
I can safely say that.
Exactly.
I added this one. Someone created Apple II fonts for your computer, for your modern computer.
I love this.
It's called Apple II Pro, and is a collection of, I don't know, like 6 different fonts? 5? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. My first guess was correct.
I love it. Yeah. This person is a hero of mine now. It should have been done a long time ago.
Yeah, the nice thing is these are free. Like these are released under a free license.
Yeah. It's actually crazy how expensive fonts can get.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And is that that's it for news. I held back a lot of news, so next week we have actually some really cool items we'll be talking about. I wanted to hold them back because next we have an interview with Rebecca Heineman, and Hugh, you couldn't make it. You were working on Australian time at that night.
I was working on Australian time. It was great.
The interview was just recorded in our chat service, so the audio will sound a bit different. But here we go. All right, we're here with Rebecca Heineman. Thank you so much for joining us. For anyone that somehow does not know of you, also known as Burker Becky, let's just say you have probably written many games that we have all played on. You are an accomplished Space Invaders champ, coder of kernels for many Sony systems, and probably a whole lot more I'm missing there. There's no really complete website with all your work on it.
Well, hello, I'm Rebecca. It's because I've been in the business for over 40 years, and when you have over 250 games with your name on it, it's there are times where someone would come up to me and say, "Hey, Becky, nice work you done on this game," and I honestly say, I don't remember working on it, but now that you mention it, yes, I do remember working on that game. And that's when I'm sitting there flabbergasted going like, holy heck, I'm actually forgetting projects I actually spent weeks, if not months on. And they're totally like, unless you mention it, I totally forgot about it.
That's great. Well, how did you get started in programming video games?
Well, that's actually just a dovetail from me winning the Atari National Space Invaders Championship back in November of 1980. At that particular point in time, I had already been an accomplished Apple II programmer designing peripherals, mostly so I could pirate Atari 2600 games. But because I had to get these skills, it meant that I became a computer programmer by default. Mm-hmm. Because I was now this video game champion, I started learning how to actually program the Atari 2600. I taught myself, which then led me through connections through this video esports world to my first programming job with the Avalon Hill Game Company. And I've been literally professionally programming ever since.
I heard a rumor that you actually lied about your age to get a job pretty early in programming.
That is true. When I was before I even did the championships, I was working at JCPenney. I was working at the Electric Planet Video Game Arcade, and all these jobs I did, I was definitely not 18. I was more like 15, 16 years old, and because I had already run away from home and so forth, I had to basically tell everybody I was 18 because in California at the time, you could get a job when you're 16 if you had your parents' permission. But if you're not around your parents, you have to then tell them you're 18. But of course, back in 1978, 1979, they just took your word for it.
Yeah.
They never mentioned it.
So how do you teach yourself to program Atari 2600 all by yourself?
I would have to totally lay the blame on the Apple II computer. The Apple II computer has built into it a disassembler that allows you to look at 6502 code built into the ROM, the Apple II. You don't buy anything. You just turn on the computer, type it's a call negative 151, puts you in the mini assembler, and then you just type 800L, and you can actually just see 6502 code. In this case, the Apple ROM is F800L, and then you can see the Apple II ROM, and it's understandable. And of course, with the Apple II, there's manuals on how to program 6502. They even give source code to all their stuff. So with comments, it says, so these meaningless gibberish on the left, the comment says it does this. Mm-hmm. Okay. And the next meaningless gibberish, and after a while, it becomes from meaningless gibberish to, I actually can program this. And since the Apple II and the Atari 800 or the Atari 2600 use the exact same microprocessor, it meant that if I took an Atari cartridge, disassemble it using the Apple II disassembler, it made sense.
Wow. Yeah, that's really cool. And I think genius for someone of that, so young to be able to just do, and it just led to a great career. And then from there, you went on to, correct me if I'm wrong, Apple II GS and doing one of my all-time favorite games. In fact, my first favorite game ever, Task Times in Tone Town, which I still think has the best theme song ever.
Yeah, so that was me and Russell. Russell Lieblich, I believe it was. I hope I'm saying his name right, but he worked at Activision, and I drove down to Santa Monica, went into his studio, and we worked on that song together for like over a week because I was making a brand new sound driver for a brand new Apple IIgs. And of course, when we both saw that there was a literal synthesizer chip in there, we were saying, we're not going to let this go. We're going to do something awesome. And that theme song came of it.
Yeah, it seemed like you really did push that system. And around that time, you also did, Bard's Tale 3 and a handful of others too, right?
Oh, yeah. There was Bard's Tale 1 and 2 for the 2GS. There was Bard's Tale 3 for most platforms. I created Bard's Tale 3. Then there was Dragon Wars and, of course, stuff on Wasteland. And then it just pretty much every game at Interplay up until 1995, I either wrote it or had a heavy hand in it.
And in that time, is that when you created BurgerLib?
Yeah. BurgerLib was born around the very first iteration was born around 1985 because it was what I used to allow me to write an Apple II game and then quickly get it on the Atari 800 and the Commodore 64. That's why Mind Shadow, Tracer Sanction, Borrowed Time, and Task Times in Tone Town, when I did one version of it, I had the other versions up and running in like a couple of days.
That's great. Yeah, so you don't describe it as a game engine, right? You just describe it as a game operating system?
Yeah, because it's a file system, a input system, graphics system. I mean, all the building blocks you use to make a video game engine, that's what it is. And of course, the first iterations was just written 6502 assembly for the Apple II C64 and Atari 800. Then later on, I then made a PC version of it in Intel assembly. But it wasn't until around the 3DO time when I wrote a new version of it all in C for the 3DO. And pretty much what BurgerLib today is based off that.
Wow, yeah, and it's still used on even like the Nintendo Switch and modern systems like that, right?
Yes, it runs on the Switch. It runs on the Oculus Quest 2. It's my latest addition to is full Vulkan support.
Wow, that's fantastic. Yeah. This is definitely a tool I'd like to play with soon. Try to create something with it. And yeah, you mentioned the 3DO. Correct me if I'm wrong, but you also ported many games in your career to 3DO. I think maybe Dreamcast and a few others. Could you talk about any of those? Maybe.
Yeah, Dreamcast. Yeah, I actually ported 2 games to the Dreamcast, but neither actually shipped. The Dreamcast was suddenly canceled from Sega. So when we were about ready to golden master these games, one was a Deer Hunter game, and the other one was, I think it was Sacrifice for Interplay. But I could be wrong on that one, though. But I just said, once we were getting on the finish line, that's when we were told, hey, Sega's no longer pushing the Dreamcast. We better stop development on these titles and then work on something else where we can actually make money. And of course, that was 1994, 93 or 94 was when I first was introduced to the 3DO. And it was mostly because I was already doing a whole slew of Mac ports for Interplay under the MacPlay banner. And so I was one of the experts on the Macintosh MPW development system, which just so happened to be the same development system 3DO uses. So I immediately switched over to doing that, and I did, what was it? There was Wolfenstein 3D, Doom, Siberia, Casper the Friendly Ghost, Shadowin, Kingdom of the Far Reaches, Out of This World, Battle Chess. There was like 9 games. I don't even remember all their titles, but I was just churning out 3DO titles for about 2 years, and then 3DO died. So then I moved to another console.
And you even ported Donkey Kong, right, to maybe Coleco? Is that correct?
No, I did not have any involvement with Donkey Kong on any platform. I think you're confusing maybe my wife, because Janelle Jakeways had a heavy hand in Donkey Kong.
Oh, there you go. So when porting games like that, were you often not even given source code or anything? Were there any really difficult projects that come to mind?
Oh, there have been several. The most notable one was, of all things, Redneck Rampage. My project was to take Redneck Rampage from the PC and put it onto the Mac. It was running on a thing called the build engine. The problem was that Interplay, because of some wacky licensing, because they got it from a place called Zatrix, not from 3D Realms, because 3D Realms, I think, was the company that actually did the build engine. But 3D Realms licensed the build engine to Zatrix, who in turn licensed Redneck Rampage built on it to Interplay for publication. Somewhere along the line, no one signed a contract that would say, we get the source code to the build engine. So when I got the source code, and I'm going to use quotes on this one, of Redneck Rampage, it had all the code from Zatrix, but then it just linked in a library called build.lib. And we didn't have the source to that. And when I asked about it, it says, oh, yeah, sure, 3D Realms will license us the source code, write a check for $20K or some high number. Which remember, this is $1993, so $20K is more like 40 or 50K.
Yeah.
And at that point, it says, okay, screw this shit. I'm going to, sorry about the bad words, pull up a disassembler, disassembled it, and then we literally line by line translated it from Intel assembly to in this case, it was PowerPC assembly, actually in C, and then compiled it. And sure enough, it ran after we got it all done. And then we found the functions that were running slow, actually ported those back into C. So the compiler did a better job. And that's what we shipped.
Wow. Yeah, I'm trying to think. You also did Doom, Wolfenstein. I'm trying to think of a few others. Yeah. And then, yeah. And then you moved on to do a lot of kernel work for Sony, right? Those systems?
Well, I also worked at Microsoft, too. I worked on Microsoft on the Kinect. And then there was a project called Trioxide at Microsoft I worked on, which is now being used in the Xbox One, because what the project was an Xbox 360 emulator that ran on a PC. There was a project at Microsoft, which really don't know how much I could say, but it involved the ability for you to take an Xbox 360 game and run it on a PC. And because they wanted to save money, they wanted to do it through emulation.
Okay.
And so I worked on the PowerPC to Intel just-in-time compiler technology and all that stuff. And we had Halo running. It was running about 1/3 the speed of it on a Rails 360, but the fact it was running. And then the project was killed for reasons I don't know whether or not I can talk about. It had nothing to do with the project. It had to do with market conditions. But then I come gleefully finding out later when the Xbox One was released that they took that project out of mothballs and then started working on it again. And now that's what they use to run Xbox 360 games on the Xbox One.
Oh, wow, which I heard runs fantastic.
Oh, well, considering that PCs have gotten a lot faster since the day when we did that particular project. The Trioxide project was back like in 2008, 2009. So, with 10 years of PC evolution going from 1/3 the speed of Halo, we should have no problem running.
Yeah. With many more cores, yeah.
With a lot more cores, there you have that too.
So I mean, your hardware career goes, from VIC-20 really to PlayStation 5, right? So are there any systems that stand out to you as your favorite to code for?
Lately, my favorites have been the code for is the Xbox One and the Nintendo Switch. Those are my two most favorites. The Switch, because it's just simple. There's no fluff or anything. You just at startup, write a few lines of startup code, then of course a trillion lines of Vulkan, and then start drawing stuff onto the screen, and you're done. The real challenge is making it a good Switch experience, being able to plug in and having the screen change sizes, and the fact you have a touch screen as well as a joystick. Those are design challenges, not coding challenges. The Xbox One is the fact that it basically it's a Windows box. So I just write the game on Windows, and then once it's like 99% complete, then I just make a few changes to code and it just runs on the Xbox One. So that makes development so much easier.
Yeah. Wow, yeah, that is cool. And you did do The last time we talked, you couldn't talk about the PlayStation 5 at all, so it's nice that that's already released. Can you tell us about the work you did on that, or is that still under any
I was just
NDA?
working on it for it. I was just working on a game for it. I wasn't involved with Sony or any of the kernel work. That was the PlayStation 4.
Okay.
We call it Project Orvis at the time, but I did some kernel work and stuff like that. But that's ancient history today. PlayStation 5, I had no involvement, but I was working on a game for the PlayStation 5. My work on it is long done. The game has not been announced or released as far as I know, so it's still can't talk about it.
Oh, man. And then you said the other thing you can't talk about is the Amico, other than it exists, correct?
Correct. One of the things I'm working on right this second is a product on the Amico. To those people out there who think the Amico is a scam, well, it's a very real scam because it's not in the sense that it's real. It's not a scam. I mean, I've got a unit. It looks like what they say it's going to look like. So, I mean, this thing looks like I could just probably unbox it from a real store unit. It's just, of course, I didn't get it from a box. I got it from a cardboard box with packing peanuts in it because it's a prototype. But I am developing a title on it. That anything more, I'm definitely very violent.
Yeah.
NDA.
Yeah, I won't push that anymore.
But it's going to be nice. Hopefully they'll hit their ship date, which I think is October or something this year. I mean, the only thing I'm worried about is just the global chip shortage, because that's affecting everybody manufacturing stuff. So let's hope it doesn't affect them. So that's all I can say.
Yeah. No, I could definitely see that happening. And two things I forgot to mention while I was giving your intro is you have started many successful businesses developing video games, and you are also a successful comic book author. Did you want to talk about your comics at all?
Yeah. Well, let's see. Back around mid 2003, 2004, I wanted to write a novel. It was one of those things where and it's because I teach myself how to do things by doing. Mm-hmm. This is just the way I learn. I really can't go to school and learn because it's just not the way I take in information. So I saw this anime called Ranma 1/2. Now, 2003, it's already old because it came out like in 1995, 96, but I only discovered it in 2003. And I fell in love with it, loved it, wanted more stories. Then that's when I discovered fan fiction. And of course, like the internet, 90% of it is garbage. But then there's 10% of it. It's like, this is solid gold stories, novels, continuations. And then I also fell in love with another show called Sailor Moon. And hilariously, there is a subgenre of fan fiction where Ranma meets up with the Sailor Scouts and he becomes a magical girl, much to his dismay. And so I read a whole slew of different novels and stuff like that. But the thing I didn't like was the fact that they always took liberties with the characterizations of both sets of characters. And I thought maybe I should try my hand in it. So I then read one story called Sailor Ronco, written by a guy named Fire, otherwise known as Duncan Zillman. And I got permission from him to basically say, just take the story. He said, here, you just take it. I don't care anymore. And so I took it, and I then made it did some edits and stuff like that. And that's what's posted on my website. But then worked with another author to make a small, tiny sequel about it called Twice in the Millennium. But then I then took it from there and made my own story called Sailor Ronco Tunnel Vision. It was my very first attempt at a novel, so therefore anybody who reads it, I really need to go back there and edit it and so forth, because it's like, man, I definitely was writer 101. I would get graded on it. But the story itself was what took the fan fiction world by storm, because they could not believe that somebody could write a story where you take Ranma, meets the Sailor Scouts, and then halfway through the story, you find that the villain is none other than Skynet and the Terminator.
That's amazing.
And everything worked seamlessly, in which whenever you have the characters of Ranma and Sailor Moon, there's some comedy, magical girl, but when the Terminator shows up, it basically is a scene straight out of Terminator where people are getting shot, they're killed, there is like world-ending destruction and so forth. And if it goes back and forth with it, and of course, because of time travel is involved, by the time the story ends, it pretty much is reset and everybody's as if it never happened. But because I got so popular with it, I made a couple more novels, one with Godzilla, one with some demons, just done strictly for laughs and so forth. So each one I did a novel with a different, again, first one hard sci-fi, next one just a comedy, next one was, basically Godzilla, kaiju thing. Because I was teaching myself how to do it. And of course, as you read each novel, you will notice I'm getting better and better until like the last novel I've done, people are saying, why isn't this in print?
Yeah.
Well, because of the fact that I got some fans, some of them were doing comic books. And they said, boy, it would be great if we did a comic book. So, how hard would it be to teach myself to do a comic book? And since I already had this story, why not make a comic book form? And then that's when Sailor Ronco was born. Now, granted, I can't draw. I just simply, art is not a skill I possess, and it's one where I don't have the time or energy to really learn. So in this case, I hired an artist. And I hired some people who needed the money so that they started doing the drawings for me, and I did the writing. So which is why, as time went on, the story, got really involved and really, really good, and people liked it. But then I had artists approaching me to say, hey, the art on there is not really that good. What if I was your artist? And now I'm working with a guy named Erwin Prasyata, who is an Indonesian manga artist of quite note. And he's been redrawing all the pages of Sailor Ronco. We pretty much have finished chapters 1 through 4 now, completely done in a brand new manga style, and it looks really, really nice. And I've already started the scripts on continuing the story. Now, granted, the story's been on hiatus for like about 9 years because I have to pay this guy. Because, nobody does stuff for free. And thankfully, because of the, years of successful businesswoman, I have the money that I can actually waste because I'm not getting paid to do Sailor Ronco.
Yeah.
To have him, make a living doing the art for me so that I can continue the story. And I have several fans are already going to me saying, oh my God, you're continuing the story. Yay. So,
do you think Sailor Ronco will ever be a video game?
It's possible if I could get the rights to both Ranma 1/2's characters and Sailor Moon characters to do a game. But that would require me working with somebody who knows the Japanese character licensing rules and stuff like that. Because, when you do a fan fiction or a parody with known characters, there are certain things you can do as long as it's free. So like Sailor Ronco, I could do all I want as long as I don't charge a penny for it. But the moment I accept any money or do like a cartoon or something like that, where money is really changing hands, then the real copyright holders will have a word with me, unless I have a license.
Absolutely. Yeah, I used to be a big Ranma 1/2 fan back in the day, and there was never a good Ranma game or Sailor Moon game that I could find. They were always just kind of a little bit hacky.
Well, if Viz Media, if you're listening to this podcast, hey, give me a call or an email. Let's talk.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, final question. Is there any game that you've worked on? I know you've said you've created so many that it's hard to even remember them, that you would just like maybe to request our listeners to maybe go back and give it a shot, maybe something from the 90s or early 2000s, something that, you hold dear to your heart.
Oh, there's so many that I hold dear to my heart. My number one, of course, is Bard's Tale 3, The Thief of Fate. Another one is Dragon Wars. That's available on Good Old Games right now, the original classic 1989 game. Other ones you can try on consoles would be, of course, Wolfenstein 3D, either on the Mac or on the 3DO. I'm very proud of the work I did on that. And, of course, Out of This World on the Super Nintendo. And, of course, on the 3DO. Because the 3DO versions of Out of This World I'm extremely proud of how that game turned out.
All right, cool. Yeah. We will pick some of those games in our next game club for all of our listeners to play. So it has been an absolute pleasure to talk to you. Is there anything else you want to plug or mention at the end?
Well, of course, come visit follow my Twitter page at Burger Becky on Twitter. Of course, Old School, OLDESKUUL on Twitter. We are currently getting ready to publish Lawless Legends for the Apple II. We will be coming out in a box set with a little metal badge, like a parchment map, floppy disks. Will also come with a little USB stick that will have the game with an emulator so you can run on the Mac and the PC. And we're working with a group called 8-Bit Guys doing this game, and we hope to be shipping this in July. So Lawless Legends, of course, you can follow that as well on Twitter. But again, oldschool.com and Old School on OLDESKUUL on Twitter.
All right. And our listeners could look that up in our show notes. And again, thank you so much and all our best to you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you again to Rebecca Heineman for joining our podcast.
Yeah. I wish she would come on annually. She's just a great human being, great person, great interviewer and or interviewee, I guess. And every time I'm done talking to her, I think about a million questions I could have asked.
Now, did you see the Netflix History of Video Games documentary?
Oh, yeah.
That she's on. Yeah.
High Score, I think it's called.
Yeah. Yeah, so I watched that a couple nights ago, not because I knew this interview was coming up, but my wife was working late on something, and I said, great, wife's working late, I'm going to sit down and watch that Night Stalker documentary. Mm-hmm. And I get to the title screen, and then my youngest kid comes down and says she can't sleep. So I immediately change it to something else on Netflix. But she enjoyed the documentary too, so it all worked out. The idea that there were like video game tournaments in the 80s was kind of mind blowing, because there wasn't Twitch. Like how the video game tournaments worked, like you had to fly the players out to the same city.
Yeah, they all had to fly to New York, and they were all on CRT monitors with Atari 2600s in front of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, just crazy. But yeah, I hope she'll be back on again soon. And yeah, thank you again for doing that that interview. And I guess we got a game club. I guess I'll go first here. Mm-hmm. So I don't know about my pick this week. So I picked Gauntlet Legends or Dark Legacy. They're almost the same game. So this is like a 3D sequels to Gauntlet 1 and 2, released in the arcade, Nintendo 64, PlayStation, and Dreamcast in 1998. And a few things made it unique. First, you could put in a username and password, both were just 3 characters, in the arcade. And so when you went back and popped in more quarters, you would start where you left off. And, unlike other Gauntlet games, you can level up your character and do a few other things, So it was definitely worth doing it. I actually did that at Pinball Pete's in Ann Arbor. Anytime I went there, I'd try to get up a few levels. Another interesting thing about this game was it used a digital joystick. It's kind of like an analog joystick, kind of feels the same, but works differently. And so you could have 2 different experiences. You could have 2 cabinets next to each other, one with the 8-way controller, and then one with the digital controller, which can do, way more than eight directions. And but those kind of broke easily, and they're kind of difficult to set up. I used to have a Dark Legacy cabinet, and I sold it really quickly because this game does not hold up. It plays a lot like, the original Gauntlet, except you could choose which level you start on. You have to get through each level. I think you have to collect the runes or keys or something in order to get to the last area, the last boss. There are boss fights in this. And yeah, so it's just kind of an upgrade in every single way from the old Gauntlet games. And it really, really, really feels like a first generation 3D game because it is. The arcade original arcade version feels a little bit better than the Nintendo 64 and, Dreamcast and PlayStation version. But essentially, they're the same. You could play 4 players at home on your consoles, which is really cool. That's really about it. I remember this game being way better than it is. I played it on MAME, which was kind of a challenge because it had a .chd file, which is kind of like, just the data dump. So this game is actually almost, with all the assets and stuff, it's like well over a gig, like 1.2 gigs. I could be remembering this wrong, but I think the arcade PC board actually had a hard drive attached to it. I think it did. But, people replace them with SD cards now. Anyway, that's kind of hard to set up in MAME sometimes, but finally got it working and played through it a little bit, and it's not horrible, but it's really, really a product of its time. Do you have any experience or memory of this one?
No, I actually couldn't get it working, so I feel like I was
I don't
knowledge.
blame you, yeah. And
So this actually was in the little game room of the college I went to for graduate school.
Mm-hmm.
And I did not go to the arcade a lot while I was in graduate school, but sometimes I didn't live on campus because I had like a job and a wife and stuff while I was going to graduate school.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I would get to campus early, like if for some reason there wasn't traffic or whatever, I'd end up at campus early and go hang out in the game room for a couple of minutes. And there was definitely a cabinet of this there, and there was an NFL Blitz, but it didn't matter because they had Dig Dug arrangement. So if I was going to play any game, it was going to be Dig Dug arrangement.
Oh, I'm glad you mentioned NFL Blitz. I think that's the same hardware. I know they use the same sticks and stuff. So
Okay.
yeah, I think it's the same hardware inside, or at least really similar.
Okay. It could be. But yeah, I just never tried it, and really couldn't get it running. I don't have like a current ROM set for MAME. I have something I downloaded off a site in like 1997.
Yeah, the year this came out, pretty much.
Yeah.
Well,
and haven't updated. Yeah.
one other thing to note about this, that while we're talking about the hardware, is it was one of the few arcade games that used medium graphics. So it didn't use low res and it didn't use high res. It's like Goldilocks, it used a medium res. I forget what, I'm sure one of our listeners is screaming at their iPhone or whatever right now, but
yeah.
I forget the exact ratio, the pixel ratio there. But definitely looked better. What did you play?
So I played Time Pilot. I was kind of inspired by watching it on Starcade. And Time Pilot's all right. You know, it's a kind of a fun shooter. It's a neat concept. So you're like, I guess there must be a story. I didn't read the story. But you're traveling through different time periods, fighting ships of that time period. So, World War I fighters, World War II fighters, up to like Top Gun looking fighters, and eventually, futuristic ones. And, you fly around. It sort of moves mechanically a little bit like Sinistar because you're moving all directions. And, after you shoot enough of the enemy fighters, then some sort of a boss ship comes along, like a big Zeppelin, something like that. And after you blow that up, you warp to the next time period. And of course, you can also pick up parachuters, which is kind of interesting because you're the one shooting all the planes down.
Yeah.
But you can still rescue the parachuters for extra points. And yeah, it's fun for a little bit. There's a home version I tried for about a minute. It's not very good. It was a 2600 port. I only tried the 2600 port. I know there's other ports. But that one I did not care for. The arcade game, still kind of fun.
For 1982, this is an impressive game.
Yeah, it looks really nice for the time, absolutely.
Yeah, there was no way that a port from back then, would be good. But yeah, it's an all right game. I'd say give it a try. Not the best game in the world, but why not? What are you gonna play for next episode?
I'm going to stick with arcade. This game also has some home ports. And I can go Rastan. Sometimes
Nice.
called Rast. I think Rastan Saga is the Japanese name. But in America, we dropped Saga.
This is a game I never think about playing, so I'm excited to
All right.
to do this one. I'm gonna do. Or what are you gonna play it on?
I think I definitely have this on a Taito Legends collection.
Yeah.
I think I own it on Master System also.
Nice.
And what are you going to play?
For Burger Becky, I'm going to do Task Times in Tone Town, probably on the Apple II GS. I hope all of you play this game. Definitely play it with an FAQ, just to get through it, because, trying to sort out where you're supposed to type in could be a little bit frustrating in this day and age. And also, I would definitely set your speakers to medium volume, because every once in a while, like, you'll go into a room with a clock, and it'll be tick-tocking pretty loud. So, but it does have some great music and great sound effects, especially for the time, especially to fit on, I think, 800K floppy disk. So, very impressive game, and please play it to see one of Burger Becky's early works and one of my all-time favorite, probably my first favorite game. I won't say one of my all-time favorites, but probably my first favorite game.
All right. I have this on some PC collection, so I'll maybe try it on DOSBox.
Nice, yes, please. And so if any of our listeners have any cool news items, have anything retro they want to mention, want to play the games with us and give us your feedback, please email us at email@retrogameclub.net. That is email@retrogameclub.net, or hit us up on Facebook, facebook.retrogameclub.net, or on Twitter @RGC Podcast. And we have a few emails this week.
Yeah, I will get the first one here from Stanley, who is also freaked out by Rygar on the NES. Also finds the game visually weird and hard to explain. But he really enjoys the Lynx and arcade versions. Said his local hoagie shop, hopefully hoagie is not too regional for everybody, it was called Steve and Irene's. That's an important detail. It had a Rygar cabinet that he played very religiously but was still terrible at. He thinks maybe there were dip switches that they turned on to make it harder.
Yeah, Zach looked that up. It is true. Those boards did have dip switch settings.
Dip switches, yeah, and sketchy. Oh, come on, how much money does the hoagie shop need to make off you? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they only had 2 machines there. The other one was Arknoid. He said, typing on the dead mod sounds awesome. That's when we talked about the Yahoo Answers. And it might be that might be the thing that inspires him to finally install a Terra Onion.
Nice.
Yeah. I guess it means I'll need a Dreamcast keyboard again. Oh, I have a Dreamcast keyboard. I don't even know why I have it. I probably should hook it up someday.
There's got to be an adapter like USB to Dreamcast just to use a regular keyboard.
Yeah, it's really clicky if you like loud, clicky keyboards. I have a Wii keyboard. Did you know they made keyboards for the Nintendo Wii?
No, I did not.
They're really small. I use it for Raspberry Pis at my office. So like I built a bunch of Raspberry Pis to use as monitoring boards. Mm-hmm. And because it's a USB keyboard, I just have this little miniature Wii keyboard that I use whenever I have to like do something. I can't like SSH into one of them, or something's messed up, or I actually have to be on the device. I just use that keyboard.
Nice.
Yeah. He was curious if the guy that threw out all the Star Wars stuff owned any arcade machines. I do not think he did. If I knew what was in if I knew those dumpsters existed, I would have been all over them.
Yeah.
He has a friend that is good enough at time pilots that he can spell out insults directed to him on the high score screen. That takes some skill because you have to be able to get into the right slot.
That's amazing.
Yeah, yes. And then Gauntlet Legends played it in Viewmont Mall in Dixon City, Pennsylvania. And he had a very high-level character maintained on both cabinets and was a little bit upset when they rotated them out. He still remembers his old name and password, and whenever he finds a cabinet, checks to see if anyone is using it.
That makes me think of a question. Do any of our listeners ever buy, or for whatever reason own, a Neo Geo memory card that they would use to bring to the arcade so they could keep their scores. If any of our listeners have done that, please tell me the stories about that, because you would be the only person I know that did that.
Was NFL Blitz was one. We just talked about NFL Blitz. That had memory card too. Can you use like a Nintendo 64 memory card in that?
Yeah, I think you could. That sounds right.
Yeah.
It wasn't just a password, was it?
No, like you stuck a memory card in.
Yeah, that is right. Yeah.
And then there was an attempt at making like a point and click adventure game. Well, not point and click really, more like a choose your own adventure game in the arcade called Thayer's Quest. Did you ever play this?
No.
It was a Laserdisc game, and that also had a password system.
Huh. Well, yeah,
you would enter like a custom password to save your game on it.
If any of our listeners did any of those things, we would love to hear about it. Email at retrogameclub.net. That just, I don't know why that fascinates me so much. I just never brought memory cards with me, you know?
Yeah. And then he has a question for us. Have you ever played Gauntlet Remake on the PS4 store? I did not know there was one.
Yeah, it was kind of a remake, kind of like the Strider one was. It was around the same time. It wasn't bad. It kind of looked like... kind of looked a little bit like Diablo. It wasn't horrible. It wasn't amazing, but you could have fun playing it. Is that
Gauntlet Slayer Edition? Is that what it's called?
Is it from? It's from like 2014, I want to say.
2015.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Yep.
No relation to Slayer, though.
Probably not.
Okay. I'm kind of surprised. There was at Midwest Gaming Classics, someone made a Slayer-themed pinball game that they demoed. Like, it was a pinball game that played Slayer music, and I think it had a beer tap also.
Because why not?
Oh, yeah, sure, why not? And then last comment he has is about his friend beating Super Metroid in 8 minutes, and he thinks he misremembered pretty, a little bit, and I guess because you saw the same stretch of the game over and over again, and maybe wasn't paying attention, because you get bored of watching your friend try to do this. Mm-hmm. That you lose track of what the actual time was. There's this bizarre, almost daily routine he had where he would run the game start to finish when I came over to his house after school. Then we would take the bus to the mall and hit up the Software Etc., the Mall Arcade, Suncoast Video, and the Wall, which is now a FI, or probably isn't anything anymore.
That sounds like a great day.
That sounds like a very good day after school. Yeah.
That's what he described. Other than the school part, can that just be my retirement? Like when I retire, that's just what I want to do every day.
Well, none of those stores we named exist.
I know. They should have like a theme park where you could go into a Suncoast, you could go into an arcade.
Well, I was sort of thinking about it. You know how there's like these neighborhoods in Florida, that have like 200,000 people, and it's all themed like, a 1950s town or whatever.
Yeah.
They have like, basically make it look like it's, some different era of the United States that none of us would recognize anymore.
Yeah.
Like when our generation gets older, are they going to do the same? Like, are they just going to build shopping mall themed retirement homes that just look like, the 80s or 90s?
I hope so. I really hope so. They can't leave them in the 50s because no one would want to be there at that point.
Right. I'm not going to move to 50s town. Right.
Would you move to like a Renaissance? Would they make keep it going backwards instead? Do like Renaissance Fest town, but with all old people.
As you can imagine, over the course of my life, I've known many people who are really, really into Renaissance Fair, and some of them are very cool, and others are totally insufferable. So
I could only imagine.
Yeah, I've known quite a few. My wife, because she did theater in college, has known quite a few more than me. And yeah, some really, really. I mean, it goes with any kind of profession. I'm just saying, like, there's a certain type that is really attracted to doing Renaissance Fair, like every weekend, or being an actor in Renaissance Fair.
Yeah,
and like there's one guy I was friends with for years that did trained the sword fights. Because they there's the totally spontaneous sword fights that break out at those places.
Yeah, yeah.
And like he had been a trainer, for years and years at that. And he was pretty cool, normal guy. He was like an airplane mechanic or something in real life. And then there's just some really odd people. There's a lot of story. I could do a whole off-topic episode.
Oh, yeah.
Renaissance fair people.
I used to, a few times I volunteered at it. Random Rob from Detroit trivia for, it must have been 5 years, maybe 6 years. I was a fencing instructor.
Okay,
like
so you do the same
sword.
thing this guy was doing.
But it was a little bit different where it was the game where the two people like that don't work there put on the fencing helmets, and there's 2 balloons on the helmet, and they would try to pop the balloons. It turns out that when you hand fencing swords to drunk people, not good things happen. Mm-hmm. So that ended fairly quickly.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, that sounds like a really bad time. But yeah, my kids have gone to Renaissance Fair like once. They weren't really into it, so we don't really go. I could definitely see myself going, once, maybe not this summer, but by next, maybe.
Yeah, why not? It's a good time every once in a while.
It's not so much like I'd mentioned, vaccines and all that stuff. That stuff's great. So it's not about that. It's more about like last year, nobody did anything. So this year people are going to try and do all the things.
Yes, it's going to be crazy.
Right. So I feel like every place that I'd want to go is going to be crowded. So I'm just going to take one more summer where I'm not going to do anything big.
Yeah, maybe some garage sales or something.
Yeah, I officially drove by my first one, but it was all like old, I hate to say it, but like, old person clothing.
Oh, yeah, you're not quite there yet.
I don't believe. What I bought clothing? I bought some flannel shirts at garage sales for sure. Yeah.
Oh, sorry, this is a total tangent we're going on this podcast, but for the first time in a long time, I clicked on a Facebook ad worked on me.
Okay.
And I bought 2 Star Wars t-shirts. One was for the arcade game. Pretty cool. I'm using air quotes cool.
Okay.
I think it's cool, but my wife obviously doesn't. And anyway, the other shirt I bought was, Porkins from Star Wars?
Yeah, the guy who gets killed. The
heavier
set fighter. They may have made there's some like super rare. Isn't this like some super rare figure that they only sold at Comic-Con once?
Probably. Well, there was just a close-up from the movie. He's probably saying stay on target. I think that it might be him saying that. I don't know.
That's him.
Yeah, but it's a t-shirt with him just like in that, like from the movie. And I got it in the mail, and I was just like, I can't wear this. Like, I can't. Like, if I was talking to somebody and they were wearing that shirt and I had Porkins staring back at me while I was trying to have a real conversation with a person, I couldn't do it.
Yeah, I'm looking at the shirt on Amazon right now. So there actually was now I think about it, there's a good chance we have this. There was a official like retail Porkins figure. It was in the green packaging that they did in like the kind of late 90s, early zeros.
I was hoping they would keep it going and have Porkins end up being Snoke.
Yeah, anything would have been better. And the last one. I mean, like the new, trilogy. The first 2 I thought were okay. The third one, I don't know what they were. I have no clue who thought anything that happened to that movie was a good idea.
No, I go back and watch those last 3 movies, and they're on. I think the first one had good intention, but after it was, I can't watch any of those anymore.
I'm trying to think, like, this Porkins shirt is like the kind of thing that like some family member that you hate would buy you for Christmas. They're like, oh, that guy likes Star Wars. This is funny.
It's like, I can't even wear it to sleep because I don't want my wife to have to stare at it.
Wake up and look at that.
Exactly. Yeah. So anyway, this is definitely a.
It's like, have you ever gone to a bachelor party where like they put like the guy's face that's getting married on a shirt and you're all supposed to wear it while you go out?
No.
Have you had one of those?
Never had one of those.
Okay, I still have one of those in my closet because like, what am I gonna like? I could donate it to Goodwill, but like, who's gonna buy that? Like they're just gonna throw it in the dumpster. So
you should put it on eBay just to see.
Just to see if my friend's not a celebrity or anything.
Exactly. Yeah. Just to see.
See if someone wants to buy. Yeah, it's just in my And a pile of T-shirts in my closet right now.
Yeah, you could make it even weirder. You could sign the shirt with a Sharpie with your name.
Yeah, or just anything, any scribble.
And yeah, exactly. Yeah, just see. Yeah. I like that experiment.
Yeah, that was the only bachelor party I went to where there was like some sort of, everybody has to wear the same theme.
That sounds not great.
Oh, it was actually pretty good. It was it was his. Yeah, wow, whatever. You don't want to go. It wasn't anything inappropriate for the podcast. I'm not into that kind of stuff. Yeah. And I don't have a lot of friends who are either. So
yeah.
But it was like front row tickets to a baseball game and drinking at a bar, connected to a hotel later kind of deal.
Sounds fine.
Just very low kind of. His future father-in-law came to the bachelor party, so it wasn't going to get that crazy.
Yeah, I could imagine.
So, all right, so that's our off-topic discussion.
Yeah.
Stanley, thank you for the email.
Yeah, and apologies, I guess. I don't know, but Perry writes us, wanted to tell us he's really enjoying the podcast. He's only gotten into the first 3 episodes.
Okay.
So in Perry, when you catch up to this,
when you're listening to this
exactly. Welcome from the future. I hope we made it. Yeah. Anyway, maybe we'll have flying cars finally. But he had a suggestion to talk about. A good topic would be how to modernize your Apple II GS, and I like that idea because there are many, many ways that you can do that. So we will make a note of that in our show idea list.
Yeah.
I like it. Adam writes in saying, wondering, have I ever tried adding my emulators to Steam and customizing the Steam controller's layout for those emulators? And I have not. And I actually didn't even know that was a thing other than having RetroArch in there. So I'm definitely going to have to Google that, or Adam, you could maybe send me some links. So I know we're talking about the same thing, but I'm definitely interested in that. And I'm definitely loving that at least one other person in the world has a Steam controller.
Yeah. It's got me thinking. I think I will write a game demo where all you do is configure the controller. Like, that's the whole demo. It's just for people that want to... Because it'd be like my RetroPie experience. I spend a lot of time configuring controllers, not a lot of time playing games.
Yeah.
That's the whole purpose. Maybe there's like a speed run, how quickly you can configure the controller.
But you never get to play the games.
No, yeah, you're never playing a game. You're just configuring your controller.
Yep, over and over again. And then when you try to do another game and you have to configure that controller, it actually breaks what you just did.
Oh yeah, it wipes out your previous mappings every time you change the game, of course.
Yes, exactly.
And there's more commands in each game than there are buttons on the controller, so you have to really think about which commands you actually want to use on the controller.
I like it. Yeah.
When I played through, I just like even games I like a lot. Like I played through East 9 this year, right? And there's 2 defense moves in East. There's flash dodge and flash guard, right? But there's not enough buttons even on the PS4 controller for every action in the game, including like opening menus, because you have like the 3 1 2 3 the monstrum abilities, like flying and x-ray vision, that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
you have all those abilities, so like you fill up the controller buttons really fast. So I'm like, well, I'm just not going to have flash guard on the controller. Like there's one move I'm just not going to have on the controller, and that was the one I decided to sacrifice.
That's funny. I think I did something similar.
Yeah, so that's going to be in this game. Yeah, definitely more commands than buttons.
I feel like there's some RPG elements here.
Yeah, I think so. I was really thinking of it as speed running.
Okay.
A lot of speed run potential.
That is funny. Well, Perry and Adam, thank you both for those emails, and and also Perry, welcome to the podcast. But from 2022.
Social media. We asked a few things here. Zach asked about ports that are better than the originals, and what did we get here? Spy Hunter on the NES. Okay, I like that.
Yeah.
I definitely played Spy Hunter on the NES a lot more than the arcade. Even once I discovered MAME, I still went back to the NES version more. Double Dragon 2 on the NES, TMNT Turtles on the Super Nintendo, and Killer Instinct on the Super Nintendo.
Interesting. That Turtles in Time, I want to hear more about that one, because I mean, obviously that one was an arcade game too, but it's been so long since I've played the arcade game. You know, what makes the SNES port better than the arcade? I'm gonna have to look into that one.
Yeah.
People love that game though.
And Space Invaders for the 2600 gets a note.
Yeah, because you're at home.
Well. And it's kind of meant for, like, you know, I don't know, games where once they're no longer trying to steal quarters from you, a lot of games get better.
Yeah, absolutely. That was a big problem with the Gauntlet game I played this week. It definitely tries to steal quarters.
I still have a tab open with this Porkin shirt. Did you get it in black, white, charcoal, or orange?
White.
Oh, that's the worst.
It is the worst. It feels like a homemade shirt. It's just horrible.
Wow. I better close this and start getting as a product recommendation. Some feedback on Time Pilot. So Corey had it on he had a ColecoVision Atom and played a ton of Time Pilot and Burger Time on it. And he thought the clouds looked very pixely on that system, but it played well. And someone else mentions that there's really no home versions that really capture it, other than the Atari 8-bit computer version, which Zach, he left us a video in the notes here to look at, and it's pretty darn good.
Yeah, it's a homebrew.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, so it's not an official release, but it is really good.
And the last comment is something I did not know about you.
Okay, great.
So apparently you are in Street Fighter the movie, the game?
Yeah, well, only the arcade version. Yeah, this was Michael was writing about the history of Street Fighter that we talked about.
Mm-hmm.
And he couldn't believe that they didn't mention my appearance as a background character in Street Fighter the movie, the arcade game. Not the home version. It's different backgrounds.
How did that happen?
I was very good friends with the brother of the lead developer for the game.
That's awesome.
And he was all the shooting was done in Australia. They flew him, and his team out to Australia to like capture the digital actors and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I knew this guy. I mean, we had hung out. I mean, obviously, like I said, I was friends with his brother, but I knew the brother Alan really well too. Mm-hmm. And he just needed some guys in the background, who could look a little sketchy for the fighting pit scene. They didn't have, they didn't like use any extras or anything to fill out the crowd. So he just said, "Hey, can you come down to the office and I film you like doing, some fist pumps or whatever."
Nice. Like in front of a green screen?
Yeah.
That's fun.
Yeah, we had to move because of like the way I mean, I don't know much about the technology like that was used to do the capture, but I just remember like you had to move really, really slowly to do the capture. So you're doing like all these things, in slow motion.
That is funny. Yeah, that is something I did not know.
Yeah, it's fun. It's a fun little thing. I mean, clearly not in the credits or anything, nor do I want to be.
So, are you in any other games? Are you Waluigi?
No.
Okay.
Not that I'm aware of. No, I don't believe I'm. I've never heard another experience like that. No.
Okay.
So, the thing it was the office was like in it wasn't in Schaumburg. It was right outside of Schaumburg, which is like a fairly large suburb out here.
Yeah.
And it was kind of fun. So.
Yeah, I'm glad he wrote it and told us about that. So if anyone has any comments that you want us to totally get some weird tangents, I promise we have not been drinking tonight. Well, I haven't. I don't know. Yeah.
No, I really haven't. Not heavily, at least.
No.
And no, just we didn't. It feels like we don't have a long show because we have a really great interview.
Yeah, so it's gonna be.
So it feels like I feel like I'm trying to fill time, but I'm like, oh, we don't actually have to fill time. We have plenty of time.
Yeah. If you want to fill our time with emails, email at retrogameclub.net. Please write us in, and I guess we should probably wrap this one up. And thanks again to Burger Becky.
Yeah, and thanks to everyone for listening.